Welcome back everyone to the Chargers franchise. My name is MrHurriicane. Today we're going to recap the third season of the series, and we'll be going through stats, talking about this roster and what's to come as we look ahead to season 4 and the upcoming offseason. We're going to begin, however, as I edit in the Pro Bowl rosters right here. We're past that in the series right now. I sim to the Super Bowl. So here are the Pro Bowl rosters. You'll see that Phillip Rivers made it to the Pro Bowl, but there are many Chargers you may have thought would make it that didn't. Reggie Shepard, not there. Keenan Allen, not there. Even Hunter Henry I thought had a chance, but he's not there. Defensively, Melvin Ingram is a Pro Bowler, but not Joey Bosa, not Jason Verrett, not Caesar Butler, not Denzel Perryman. The only other Pro Bowlers on the team are Josh Lambo and Drew Kaiser. Come on now, just put our whole special teams unit out there because Zach Bogan might as well be the best kick returner in the league at this point. So the Pro Bowl voting didn't go well for us. Now let's talk about this season. We definitely took a step down this year as a team. We went 10-6 after a 13-3 number 1 seed season. We still won the AFC West, but we're getting lucky that nobody else in our division can put together a complete season. I do think we missed an opportunity to get the first round bye once again, especially with the Jaguars having the number 1 seed at only 11-5. We had some struggles this season that kept us from matching last year's win total. We debuted our brand new stadium this year against the San Francisco 49ers, and that helped us get out to a 3-0 start to the season. We then won 2 out of our next 3, but then the struggles began to really materialize. Our offensive line held back an offense that could have been a lot better. Look at some of these point totals. I mean, look at our playmakers, and then a team scoring 12 points, 17, only 23, 19, 20 here against the Titans, again stuck in the teens against Miami. The offensive line kept our ground game from reaching consistency and also forced a lot of issues with our pass game, whether it be from sacks, fumbles, or rushed passing decisions. So obviously, what's the first priority going into this offseason? Fix the O-line. Look at the top right-hand corner. We have roughly $200 million in funds. Those are spent on things like player salaries, our stadium lease. Salary bonuses take up a big chunk. If you're going to sign a player to a big contract with a big signing bonus, that's where a lot of the funds are going to be used. And I've saved a lot of money in this series so that we can eventually go out and get free agents that we need and pay the players that we have on our own team that have expiring contracts. A big reason why I wanted the new stadium in this series was because it would be a lot more profitable. I knew we had good players that would command some big money. I also knew we had some holes that needed big fixes. So, the new stadium helped us make a lot of funds this year. I would have liked a little more success so we could have consistent sellouts and keep people buying concessions and merchandise, but we still have a lot of money to spend in this offseason. The funds are very important, and so is salary cap. Right now we are sitting with about $23.2 million in cap space. Now I'm not sure if that's talking about the upcoming season because I think I remember seeing it around 12 or 13 before during the season. But we have some very key upcoming deals to worry about for various players, such as Jeremiah Atachu, and he's not going to be very cheap. He is probably the best free agent we're going to have potentially hitting the market. In this series, our lead running back has always been Melvin Gordon. He's had 3 1,000-yard seasons, but is now going to be a free agent, and I'll have to make a decision on if we're going to keep him around. Right now, he's been asking for around $5 million a season. One of the really good players on this team that might go under the radar at times is Casey Heyward, who has been our nickel cornerback. He's going to be 30 years old soon, and he's going to be a free agent once we get to the offseason. He's been requesting around $7 million a year, and I'm not sure if I want to go that route when we have pretty good depth when you consider Larry Wilbur and hopefully getting him a full-time role next year, whether it's at cornerback or continuing what he played toward the end of the year at safety. Let's look at some stats now for the team. Here is quarterback Phillip Rivers, who had a 20-touchdown, 15-pick season. He was sacked 58 times and threw for 4,207 yards. Now, from last season to this year, his stats did go down. He threw the same interceptions on more pass attempts, but 12 less touchdowns while throwing for 17 more yards. So he did not pass the ball well down near the red zone, and Josh Lambo actually finished with the second most field goals in NFL history. I really thought Melvin Gordon was going to have a big season where we couldn't turn him down once the season was over. The way it began was phenomenal. Can I get those top games? He had 3 games over 100 yards, and they were all pretty early in the season, including this 3-touchdown performance. He had a great game against the San Francisco 49ers, and we've always seen his big play ability. He's cut down on the fumbles, but I don't know if I want to invest that much into a running back this offseason. I made the trade to go and get CJ Prosise, who didn't have a big rushing season for us, but did contribute a good bit in the pass game, albeit not as much as Melvin Gordon, who still saw the vast majority of the carries. I like Prosise's skill set a lot, and I do think that whoever is at tailback next year, Prosise is going to have a bigger role in the offense. Barry Nfseki, while he was quiet this year until the end, I still think has a lot of potential after seeing what he did during his rookie season. He gets a lot of broken tackles, a pretty high average, and he is very good down near the red zone. He's our best power runner. So I still think that Prosise and Nfseki, regardless of whoever is going to be our lead back, is going to have a big role next year. And the role next year could revolve around these two specifically, and maybe even bring in Zach Bogan, who's been a primary returner, but also has had a few chances on offense to show what he could do. He did get injured this year, so that gave him less opportunities. At receiver, I could not be happier with the players that we have. Keenan Allen and Reggie Shepard make up a very good tandem. They combined for over 2,000 yards this year and 12 touchdowns. I want to see the touchdowns go up next year and more chances to score in the red zone, less field goals. Hunter Henry had another very good season for us. He's replaced Antonio Gates and stepped right into that receiving tight end role. Over 1,500 combined yards these last 2 seasons, but his touchdowns did go down. He still had 72 catches, and that was second on the team. Travis Benjamin, I saw many of you saying we should trade him. Well, after this season, I'm glad we didn't, because he was very productive, and we saw him take a big leap forward in the offense while playing in the same role as he did last season. 707 yards as a primary run and catch receiver. He had 265 yards of yak, but oddly enough, Hunter Henry was our best yards after the catch receiver. You can talk about those top 4 guys, but then there's still Harmon Whitaker, who got some more playing time this year. I really think that he could be a good starter if he wasn't on this team. I want to get him the football, but it's hard to justify not giving these other players playing time when they produce consistently. Alright, then there's the offensive line. Darvion McCullum and Corey Benoit were 2 rookies that I had high hopes for, and McCullum ended up getting benched towards the end of the season, and he allowed the most sacks by far on the team. The right side gave up a lot of pressure. Week in and week out, though, they face top-tier competition. That means we need to have players ready to block the likes of Von Miller, Khalil Mack, Justin Houston. We're not avoiding those guys. That's 6 games right there. 6 games that are very important for our playoff positioning. So, if they're not answers, we're going to have to find some. Ryan Clady was a temporary fix at left tackle, and I thought he performed alright. Same with Matt Slauson. J.C. Treader was maybe our most consistent offensive lineman, but we need some more help to defend the edges. Let's go to the defense, where Denzel Perryman leads us in tackles, and he's been one of my favorite players throughout this entire series. He's racked up over 125 tackles every year. He got a pick this season as well. That was off of Geno Smith in the 49ers game. I believe it was anyway. Maybe it wasn't. But no one forces fumbles like Denzel Perryman. He's forced 14 in the regular season of this series. Surprisingly, he has not had a touchdown. He's certainly created opportunities that lead to touchdowns, but no scoop in scores for him. Perryman already got the big contract from us this season, and that was one I had to prioritize given the value, like $5-6 million a year for a player that brings that much impact to our team. It was a no-brainer. And here is his contract right there. Very, very team-friendly cap hits. Next to him, we saw Leonard Howell grow as a run stopper. He's been a very effective blitzer, although still not the player I want in coverage. I think that he's going to continue playing in our base package, but I want to find a third down linebacker that I can trust consistently when it comes to defending the pass. Let's talk about the corners here. Casey Heyward, Caesar Butler, and where's Jason Verrett? There he is. They're all great players. That's a tremendous trio to have at cornerback, especially in this pass-happy NFL. I don't mind that they're not getting a lot of interceptions because they're still getting production by not allowing completions, by being pretty good tacklers, by breaking up passes and forcing the quarterback to go elsewhere and helping with coverage sacks. Christopher Costin is our free safety, and I'd call him basically a very, very average player. He rarely makes the splash play, but he tends to be reliable as a tackler. Now, he's given up some big passes. I would say that if there is a weak link in this secondary, it is him. I don't think he's a bad player, but as a long-term free safety option, I'm not sure if he's going to keep that job without winning competition. Bakari Rambo led us in interceptions, oddly enough, this season, as the leader only had to go and get 2. But Rambo has been a good run stopper. I have worked on replacing him in coverage, and I would not expect that he would be on the team next season. I think that either Larry Wilbur assumes that role, or we find someone else. When it comes to getting pressure, this team can attack you from all angles. Melvin Ingram was a Pro Bowler and put together another double-digit sack season. The only concern here is that he's 30 years old, and some of that athleticism is being sapped. He still has tremendous finesse moves, block shedding, but speed is down, and that has me thinking about giving a long-term deal to Jeremiah Attachu. I want to keep our pass rush intact because that's a big part of what keeps our defense so good at keeping scoring down. We do a great job down near the red zone, and we get a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Now, Jeremiah Attachu did not have the same production that we've seen from him in past years. I still believe in his talent. He's still a great run stopper. I look at the sacks and that number going down as more of a fluke, kind of. And also, he has a lot of competition from like Joey Bosa, Corey Lygia, Melvin Ingram. Someone's numbers have to go down, and that's just been Atachu's numbers, I feel. Another player I considered trading at one point was Corey Lygia, who's 29 years old, but this year he proved his value to us, especially as a pass rusher. That was something we didn't see as much in the first 2 years of the series, but now he goes off for 11 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss. I don't know if I can think about trading him moving forward. He does have a big cap hit though in 2020. I won't rule it out. It was good to see our superstar development cornerback Larry Wilbur finally get some consistent playing time. It's hard to keep players like him and Harmon Whitaker off the field, but look at the players that we have. It's so unique to have players that good to keep players this promising on the bench. But Larry Wilbur is going to play more next season. We saw his potential on display. Now, he didn't make every play that he could. Definitely had some issues, but I think that once he gets more playing time, gets a little bit more upgrading, that we're going to have another very good piece in our secondary. I do like Jatavis Brown as a coverage linebacker, but I still want this to be a position that ends up being earned. I'll bring in some competition. He's been injured this year, so he didn't get to play down the stretch. That's when we went and signed Darren Bates, who did a pretty similar job to what he was doing. Other depth players on the roster include Aaron Enzer and Keenan McAllister, who had 2 sacks combined this year. I'd like to get more production out of our depth. I do try to rotate a bit more. Kyle Emanuel, no sacks this year. Mike Quick didn't play a whole lot. Trevor Amato had one game where he really was highlighted and did a great job as a linebacker in a dime package. Darius Gums had 2 sacks. Taj Wilson had 1. But I want to get more out of our depth moving forward. We don't always rotate because we have such a good group of starters, but when they do need to break, it's good to have some reliable depth. You know when people joke about how the game of football really doesn't use the feet very much? Well, that doesn't pertain to our team, as Josh Lambo kicked 43 field goals this year. That's too many. That's far too many. 70 extra points? I want to see him convert more extra points than field goals next year as a primary goal. How do you not vote this guy into the Pro Bowl? Zach Bogan has been a great boost to our special teams. I did not draft him. He was undrafted. But I've been very happy to get a very productive returner who has, 2 or 3 career return touchdowns in the postseason. He had a punt return touchdown this year and 2 more kick return touchdowns, along with a 28.5 average. That man's a Pro Bowler. So why don't we look at the league leaders now, as Blake Bortles, your league MVP. Look how he's turned things around. 32 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Just 7. Look at the improvement he's made from year 1 to year 5. That is very, very promising for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and part of why they've made 2 good playoff runs so far in a row. Matt Ryan here was second in passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 15 picks. And if you go down here, there's B.J. Bingham, the replacement of Tom Brady, the heir to his throne. He's played for really 1 season, and this was his breakout campaign. Not a bad year whatsoever. Lots of good production here in the league from many familiar faces. Jared Goff is at 22 touchdowns, 18 picks. Neither he or Carson Wentz have crossed that hump, so to speak, where you want to see a player really solidify himself as a franchise passer. Andrew Luck, only 35-61. That's not like Luck to have a 6.6 yard per attempt. That seems far too low. Lots of turnovers, though, in the league, so we're not alone in that department. Le'Veon Bell, 1,642 yards, 22 touchdowns. Trailing him is Devontae Freeman. Both players had no fumbles this year. Freeman almost at 1,500 rushing yards. The Eagles traded for Charles Sims, and they saw something the rest of the league did not, including Tampa Bay. 2 straight years of 1,200-yard plus production, double-digit touchdowns. The Eagles have found their ball carrier. Ezekiel Elliott, no one's surprised he's performing this well. Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill used to make up a pretty good duo in Cincinnati. They have now split up and have found success on their own. Doug Martin, 1,278. CJ Anderson, Carlos Hyde. A lot of running backs here with a lot more yardage than we could put together. Here are all the 1,000-yard rushers. Isaiah Crowell's on there, Abraham Rich, Lamar Miller, and just barely Jeremy Langford. Your leading receiver is Julio Jones with 13 touchdowns and nearly 1,400 yards. John Brown, the speedy receiver, was the second most productive. Then Dez Bryant, DeAndre Hopkins in Jacksonville. He's definitely helped out the development of Blake Bortles. Then there's Amari Cooper. Larry Fitzgerald, still this old, 36 years old, and still getting nearly a 100-catch campaign. He is your current leader in active leader in receptions and yards, and probably receiving touchdowns as well. Who else is producing? Kendall Wright, Alan Hearns, Julian Edelman, Kenny Stills, Jeremy Maclin, Kelvin Benjamin, Lamar Haggerty here, a young player in Philadelphia. Allen Robinson, even with DeAndre Hopkins commanding so much attention. That is a duo that can definitely rival Keenan Allen and Reggie Shepard. Here are all the 1,000-yard receivers, and there was one really surprising name on here, Lucky Whitehead, who was formerly a returner in Dallas, now a very productive receiver in Atlanta. Even with Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman getting so many yards, he's managed a 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown season. We had the bottom 2 as far as everybody who reached 1,000 yards. I guess we have to compete a lot better for these numbers next season. Gabriel McAllister led the league in tackles with 163. Denzel Perryman is in the top 10. Your sack leader this year, Khalil Mack, shattering records year after year. He has 99 power moves, 99 finesse moves. You can't find a better player at their position than Khalil Mack. Sure, quarterback, most valuable position, but Khalil Mack, the best player, period. Look at that. He broke the sack record, then it was like, you know what? I'll raise the bar even further. He's trying to put this out of reach like Brett Favre in his start streak. Unbelievable. Can the Raiders please move to the NFC? The best play in football is, of course, the interception, and no one has done that more this year than Vincent Orchard, a linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, who's already become a superstar run stopper. those ratings are not messing around. He can also obviously defend the pass pretty well. I'm not sure how he goes from 0 to 8 one year to the next, but you know what? Good for him. I love interceptions. I just wish that we could get more of them. I'm kind of jealous looking at these numbers here. So many players enjoying all these interceptions. Oh, I dare someone to kick more field goals than Josh Lambo, 43. Who made the most extra points, though? Nick Folk, 59 touchdowns from your New England Patriots. A big high five to anybody who knows how to pronounce that last name. Unfortunately for him, he had 3 field goals blocked this year. And 2 extra points. So Zach Bogan was not a Pro Bowler this year, and Odell Beckham actually was the most productive full-time returner this season, it seems. 3 touchdowns, over 31 yards a return. He wasn't even voted as the Pro Bowler, though. That's the weird part. Oh, look at that. Lucky Whitehead, over 1,000 yards as a receiver and still a full-time returner, but not as productive. 2 touchdowns here for Ladarius Houston, Dre Schote, and Sammy Watkins. Oh, wow. Odell had one of these too? How many receiving touchdowns did he have? Oh, just 5. That's kind of strange. His first not 1,000 yard season, but obviously, as you can tell, he was injured. And I'm assuming that was an injury that happened during the regular season. What was that, a fractured foot? Yep. Awards. Your NFL MVP is, of course, Blake Bortles, and here with the players close by in the voting. Coach of the Year is Dirk Cutter of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they were very good to begin the season, but lost a lot down the stretch. Now, NFC Awards. Offensive Player, Jameis Winston. Defensive, Vincent Orchard. Thomas Grennan wins the NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year. We'll go see what he did. But they had the 2 best rookies on offense. Defensive Rookie, BJ Gaston of the Falcons. Then the best quarterback, Jameis. Running back, Freeman. Then Julio at receiver, Tyron Smith. Gerald McCoy. Brandon Graham at linebacker. Richard Sherman. Kicker, Gano. Now to the AFC. I have not checked these yet for us. Le'Veon Bell wins the Offensive Player of the Year. Khalil Mack, of course. Offensive Rookie, though, is Shaheen Lofton. Terrence Watt behind him. No one for us in the top 10, but we didn't really play rookies on offense. Defensively, Gabriel McAllister was the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Again, we're not in the top 10. Our rookies did not have that impact this year. Blake Bortles, best quarterback. Le'Veon, best running back. Allen Hurns and Hopkins and Allen Robinson, all the top 6. O-line, Jack Mewhort. D-line, you know who it is. Linebacker, Brandon Marshall. Defensive back, Artie Burns. Kicker, yeah, we can win that one. We had a top 10 offense this year in terms of yardage, but in terms of points, we were closer to average. And that's a lot of that has to do with just the lack of touchdowns. We only had 20 passing touchdowns. That is toward the bottom. And we had the second least rushing touchdowns. Thankfully, we had some special team scores and some defensive scores. Otherwise, that number looks a lot worse. We finished this year in the top 6 for sacks, but in interceptions toward the bottom. I want to get those takeaways next year. On third down, we only converted 45% of the time, and that's a lot to do with the ground game not helping us on early downs and putting us in tough third down positions. In the red zone, we got points 80% of the time, but 19 field goals to 13 touchdowns is not good. However, our defensive red zone numbers are extremely good. Turnover differential, we were last, and that is one of the biggest problems with this team. Heading into the owner's box, you can see the state of all of these different things that determine our value. Number 1 for tickets, number 1 for stadium, and number 1 for concessions. Then you look at team success and fan happiness. Those could all use some work, and I think we have a lot of the pieces in place that can get us there, but the offensive line is going to be the primary concern this offseason. I wish it showed me all the numbers here for the entire season, but Phillip Rivers has been selling the most jerseys on the team, while Cole Hartman, who could be his replacement next year, is in second. Part of what made the Buccaneers so good this season was the impact they had from some young players. Thomas Grennan, 82 receptions, nearly outpacing Mike Evans in receiving yards, but not quite there in touchdowns. And then Cornelius Stork also helping out with almost 900 yards. And he's starting to develop into a pretty good slot receiver. So that should about do it for this league recap. What did you guys think of this video? I think it's kind of fun looking around the league and seeing what everybody else is doing. I'd like to spend some more time on that during the season. The episodes are already pretty long, so maybe I should go back to maybe a couple times a year looking around the league and see who is succeeding and what players are breaking out. If you want to see that, let me know in the comment section. It does add some fun depth to the series to see what the rest of the league is doing, and then eventually we go and play against those players, and we happen to know a little bit about them at least. So we have a very interesting offseason up ahead, and I'm going to be continuing to talk about that more tomorrow in the next episode. Tomorrow's going to be the scouting and draft preview, where I'm talking about what our plans are in terms of bringing in new players, and I'll also talk about free agency a bit there. I'll be looking to do the offseason this weekend, on Saturday early in the afternoon. I mentioned before that I want to start doing my off seasons on the weekends primarily, and we'll begin with that this weekend in the Chargers Season 3 off season. But tune in tomorrow, or whatever it is, tune in, click the video link, same thing, and check out the scouting video tomorrow. I'll go through the scouting board, show you my watch list, and what I plan to do to make this team better in Season 4. But thank you all for watching this episode of the Chargers franchise. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you are enjoying the series. I know there's still a lot of fun moments to come as we move ahead into Season 4 soon. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and have a great day.